We're going to start the big deal of the day today, remembering two titans in American culture. Boston Celtics great, Bill Russell, passed away at 88. And Nichelle Nichols, a trailblazing, underrated TV legend. This is the same day the news broke within hours of one another. Bill Russell, you can't say enough about what Bill Russell meant, not just to sports, not just to the NBA, not just to the Celtics, but to, American culture.
Yeah.
He's a titan. He's a stalwart.
It's like when you think of what the quintessential basketball player should be, I feel like I think of Bill Russell.
Interesting.
Not just because, like people can go back and forth and, 11 championships, first black head coach, all of that. Like you can do all of that. But when people talk about playing with him, they talk about how selfless he was, how it was about the team instead of the individual, which you don't necessarily see all the time these days. So to see that he put the team first rather than putting up his own stats or his own agenda, it was all about everybody else. And that carried on to off the court. Everything that he was at the March on Washington, he stood behind Muhammad Ali. He was in there in the midst of the civil rights movement. And then the way he turned his back, I shouldn't say it, that sounds more negative, but the way he stood against the treatment that he was getting in Boston, and how, he didn't show up when they retired his jersey because of the treatment that he was getting there from the very city that he was so dedicated to in regards to, playing with the Celtics. Just everything he did, mentoring young people, always on the sidelines at an all-star game, always there to give advice, to lend a hand, because he loved the game and he loved the people that were a part of it, but then he also loved the culture and he knew what he represented and what he stood for and what he meant to so many people. So just like, when I just think, just to round it out, he's just like the basketball player, the ultimate basketball player to me.
Super well said. So this is what I think about when you think about a guy like Bill Russell. So let me tell you how Michael Jordan changed basketball to me, in my opinion. I think that Michael Jordan changed basketball because Michael Jordan changed the focus of the game to me. And I was born in 1980, so I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of who led the league in scoring in 1959 or who led the league in scoring in 1975. I know who the greats were from all of those eras but things changed when Michael Jordan came around. Really, there was a holy trinity in the NBA of Jordan, Bird, and Magic, and I think that there was a mission on behalf of the league to make those three guys bigger than the game. And then Michael Jordan became bigger than those two other guys and bigger than sports, right? And what he did was change the dynamic of team sports to where now it just didn't matter if you won. You had to be the reason why you won, right? It's less important than Scottie Pippen's actually been talking about this, right? It's less important to be Scottie Pippen, who is an integral part of championship teams, right?
Right.
You have to be the number one reason why people win it. Everyone has to know it. If you play for a team that's too stacked, that's some people's problem with Kevin Durant. Then they go, oh, blah, blah, blah. You're not the difference maker. You're not this. You're not this. Has much less to do with the entire ecosystem of a team or an organization and whether or not you are the single difference maker in that situation. Bill Russell was a difference maker, period.
Yeah.
Like Bill Russell,
for sure.
You don't look at Bill Russell as the same type of player as like a Jordan, but he was the guy that had to go out and stop Wilt Chamberlain. He was the guy that had to go out and neutralize this dominating, ridiculously athletic, almost alien force in basketball. Wilt Chamberlain was a guy 2 generations before his time in basketball. He was just like a unicorn in every sense of the way. But so was Bill Russell. And Bill Russell, every single part of his life just made a difference. He stepped on that court, and whatever you needed to win, he gave it to you. If you needed 30 rebounds, he gave you 30 rebounds. And when I say 30, I mean 30. I mean, if you needed somebody to go out there and get you 20, 25, 30 boards, he'd give it to you. If you needed somebody to march with you, to go change situations in society, he was there for you. If you needed somebody to show up and support somebody else who was doing it, right, to be a teammate, you would do it. He was the consummate professional, not just at basketball. He was the consummate professional at life. And was funny, and was gracious, and was a gentleman. And, you know, I think we always say this, and we say this a lot, right? We always say this. My thing is, I don't know if there are a lot of Bill Russells out there right now. I think there's some guys out there that are doing their best Bill Russell impression.
In the game of basketball.
Period.
Or period. Okay.
I think we need more Bill Russells. And unfortunately, with his death, I'm hoping that as unfortunate as his death is, shall I say, I'm hoping that the silver lining is that people have a little bit more of an understanding in how he lived and what he was on and off the court. The statesman that he was, the ambassador for basketball that he was. I never saw 1 minute of his play, but he was as recognizable a figure to me as anybody else was, because he was always right there for the younger generation of guys, always involved. I saw the man. I got a chance to meet the man.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and he was just like a gigantic, living, breathing, cultural deity. And so it's a sad day, but it's also an opportunity for us to remember and aspire to be as great as Bill Russell was.
I mean, even when I was, reading about it and I knew these things, and I don't want to say I forgot about them, but I was reminded as I was going through it, and I'm like, wow, he did so much, and we're talking about it again, and you're totally right. I didn't think about it as the silver lining, but it's so true. Hopefully it does. Someone say, maybe I'm not doing enough and I could do so much more. Or maybe the way I've been going about it ain't right. So do we have any Bill Russells? You said not, you don't know. Do we have any? Any?
Look, I don't want to take away from what anyone's doing, even though I kind of
use it as motivation.
Bill Russell is the man. Rest in peace to Bill Russell. Nichelle Nichols, just an unbelievably important trailblazing actress, played Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek. She passed away at 89. This is one of the most familiar faces in my life.
In your life, yeah. And sadly, not everyone's. I mean, obviously, we all know that I don't know the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars, but I was familiar with Nichelle because of what she represented and her being in that role. And you didn't see typically at that time Black women play a role outside of being a maid, a mammy, a slave, something like that. So I knew her for what she stood for and that she was a trailblazer in that right. But I don't really know. Sadly, I don't know that much about her life outside of that.
It's amazing.
I no doubt.
His thing caused controversy back in the day and she influenced your life, and you don't even know how much she influenced your life. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you how she influenced your life. One of the biggest moments in television history, something that you would actually emulate later on, is that's one of the first interracial kisses was between her and Kirk on Star Trek. You don't even know that she paved the way for you in your life. Not just in TV, but in your life. Who would have known without people seeing James T. Kirk, captain of the USS Enterprise, and Lieutenant Uhura kissing, you might not have
maybe so
Brian right now.
Maybe so.
You know what I mean?
I had no idea. I was wondering how you were going to bring this together, but my goodness.
Martin Luther King Jr., a guy that I'm sure you guys have heard of, called it the first non-stereotypical role played by a black woman in television history. Nichelle, you give Jesus a hug. I'm telling you straight up right now, if Martin Luther King Jr. had said something like that about me, I would be telling that
everybody.
I didn't hear enough. I want all of our elders, make sure y'all talk y'all shit before y'all leave us. Because that's the type of thing I would be telling everybody. I will go to the DMV. They'll be like, hey, you got to wait. I'm like, no, I'm not waiting for nothing. Dr. King told me. Rest in peace.
And that's why we can't have anything. Because we would do that. But yes,
rest in peace to Nichelle Nichols.
Beautiful.
In her career, she was known for that role. She played that role not just in television, on television, but in movies as well. Just a fantastic, like for me, someone who loves sci-fi, I can't tell you how much when you're watching Star Trek as a kid or when you're watching Star Wars as a kid, like at a time when we were thirsting and starving for representation, right? At a time when you'd see these movies and you would never see anyone who reminded you of one of your uncles or your aunts. And then you see Lando Calrissian in Star Wars. He's the man in Bespin, right? He's like, just runs Cloud City, right? You see Lieutenant Uhura, and she is right there representing a future, in the Federation, representing a future that is supposed to have moved past racism. Right?
Oh, really? They addressed that?
Yeah. Well, the reason why the crew is multicultural on the Enterprise is because we're supposed to be at a point where that doesn't exist anymore. We're supposed to be at a point where that's not a thing. Where that's not a thing anymore, right? And so, you have the Federation.
So they don't live on Earth?
They do live on Earth. The headquarters in San Francisco.
Okay.
But they never deal with that.
I really know nothing. I don't know the concept. I don't know anything about Star Trek except for this.
So this is what. Okay, who does that in Star Trek?
They all do.
No.
Captain Kirk?
Wrong.
I don't know anybody else. Spock?
Yeah, Spock does.
I just literally pulled that out.
Okay, so
of nowhere.
Spock does that.
You put 5 people up and I wouldn't know which one was Spock.
So you wouldn't know which one was Spock?
Which one's Spock? I don't even know if I would fully be able to identify Captain Kirk.
My nigga, like on some real shit. You know what? It's like Spock. Like Spock.
But I know that there's a Spock.
I feel you. Spock is the one with the pointy ears. That's the only one.
That's him?
Spock,
okay. I saw him at Comic-Con a lot.
They had him Spock. Okay, so Spock does live long and prosper. And so he does like that. Spock is a Vulcan.
Okay, we're going deep.
So Spock live long and prosper. Sometimes they'll do it back to Spock, but mostly this is Spock that does that, right? Spock is actually half Vulcan.
Can he go like this?
He might be. I can't do that. Not like talking about. Maybe I can. But Spock, I could do this.
Okay, but like he can move his fingers around.
Yeah, he can.
Okay.
Like he has. So Vulcans don't have any emotions. So Spock is a Vulcan, and so he doesn't have any emotions.
So this is his
All
emotion.
logical. No, it's not his emotion. He still kind of feels emotions because he's part human, but emotion is like forbidden on Vulcan. His mother was Winona Ryder. They had her in the movie. But anyway, so what the Federation is they go out and explore the galaxy. That's their job.
Okay.
So their job is to go out, explore, and make contact with other things. You know what I mean? Space, the final frontier.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So they go out and they explore.
Makes sense.
But they're peaceful though. They have weapons in case it gets gully, because the Romulans, the Klingons, all these other people, sometimes they get gully with them, but they're peaceful. And she was a lieutenant.
She had status.
She had status. She's on the bridge with Kirk. You know what I mean?
It's amazing.
With Scotty. Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
A moment of silence for those two people that have become our ancestors now. Good journey into the hereafter.